In this video, we are going to learn about PHP functions. Functions are the block of code that are used to perform a certain task. The real power of PHP comes from its functions. PHP has more than 1000 built-in functions, and in addition, you can create your own custom functions. Now, there are two types of functions in any programming language. First are the built-in functions and the second are the custom functions. Built-in functions are the functions which can be directly used in the program. We don't have to write any business logic for these functions because it is already written by the PHP developers, and we can simply use these functions in our program as many times as we want. And secondly, we can create our own custom functions as well. In this case, we are the one which are writing the business logic as well as at the same time I'm using that function. For example, let's say if I want to make a calculator which does the operations like addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So in this case, I can create a separate function for addition, a separate function for subtraction, and separate functions for multiplication and division. I can write the business logic inside these functions and can use it as many times as I want. So the biggest advantage of using functions is that once a function is created, I can use that function's unlimited number of times in my program. So basically, I don't have to repeat the same lines of code again and again because in here I have written the business logic only once and now I can simply call this function. And calling a function is nothing but invoking a function which just takes one line of code, which we are going to learn in the next video. So lesser the lines of code means lesser the memory my program would occupy, and hence lesser the memory means more optimized and efficient code. So I'm reusing my code, and even I can go for code reusability because I'm using the same code again and again. Instead of writing that same lines of code again and again, I'm just invoking out that function. And the second advantage is and the second advantage of using functions is our code would look more organized because now I'm dividing my code into functions. So even if I get some errors, it would become easier for me to find out and solve these errors because now my code is looking more organized. So let's see the built-in functions, some built-in functions. PHP has over 1000 built-in functions that can be called directly. Called means we are just invoking that function so that whatever code is written inside that function can be executed within a script to perform a specific task. Please check out PHP reference for a complete overview of the built-in functions. There is a complete list of built-in functions which is available online. So you can just check out any built-in functions that you want to use in that list. Now here I have shown a very easy example. Here I have created one variable and assigned a value of 100 to it. And now I'm simply printing out the square root of this number. So here square root is an inbuilt function which I am directly using in my function. I haven't written any business logic for it because the PHP developers have already done it for us. So let's run this in an IDE. PHP tags, and we'll create a variable and assign a value of 100. And now we will simply echo the square root of this number, which would be 10 in this case. Okay. So I'll just save it and we'll run it in our browser. I'm using the same path localhost slash name of my folder is programming, and my file name is first.php. So as you all can see, 10 has been printed onto the screen. If I change the number, if I change this number to 50, let's say, or let's say if I change it to 25, 5 would be printed onto the screen. Okay, 5 has been printed. So this is one of the built-in functions that I have used. This comes under the math section. Okay, so there are a couple of different functions that can be used. Okay, so now let's jump on to first slide. Now create a user-defined function. Now let's create our own function. Besides the built-in PHP functions, it is possible to create your own function. A function is a block of statements that can be used repeatedly in our program. A function will not execute when a page loads. As I said, when a function is created, it does not execute automatically. We have to invoke that function by calling that function by its name. A function will be executed by a call to the function. Okay, so that we will be learning in our next video, how to call a function. For now, let's just understand how to create a function. So the syntax here is we have to use a keyword called function, then followed by the function name, then open and close parentheses, and then curly braces, inside which we will be writing our code that is to be executed. So let's jump on to IDE and let's create our own custom function. Let's say I'm creating a function to display something onto the screen. So I will create a function with the name display, open and close parentheses, and then curly brace. In this, I will just simply echo hello world. Okay, I'm just simply printing out hello world. Okay. So now the keyword is function followed by the function name. Now there are certain rules that you have to keep in mind while naming a function. A function name has to start with a letter or the underscore character. You can't start it with a number like this. No, it would give an error. Don't start with a number. And when the function name is the combination of two or more words, name this function as display function. So here my function name is the combination of two words, display and function. So in this case, we go for camel casing. The camel casing says the first letter of the second function has to be in capital, like this, display function. Since this was our second word, its first letter should be capital. Let's say if my function name is a combination of three words. Uh, let's say if I have display function, I'm just giving out an random example. So in this case, my third word is again function. So its first letter has to be in capital. So like this. So this is the camel casing. The first letter of the first word will always be in lowercase, and then whenever there is a second word, its first letter should be in capital. So now I will just cut this out. Yeah, so this is the way we create a function in PHP. Now we will be learning in the next video how to use this function inside my code. Now some of you might be thinking that why to create a function for one line of statement. If I call this function, it would take one line of code. So simply we can echo out this statement as many times as I want, because even it will take one line. In So this is a correct observation, but just think of a function which consists of millions of lines of code. In such cases, functions becomes an extremely important part, because I'm writing a millions of lines of code only once in my program, and then I can use it as many times as I want. So let's say if I don't use functions, then I have to repeatedly write those of lines of code again and again. And obviously that is an inefficient method, because it would take a lot of time. It would take a lot of memory. Okay, so in the next video, we will be learning how to use this function in our program. Thank you.